Hello, everyone. Welcome to Oscar Wild, a podcast about film, always counting down to next year's Oscars. I'm Nick Rookraut.
And I'm Sophia Simonello.
And as you can see, we have Bennett Prosser back. Now that we've had a few days to digest all of the nominations from Golden Globes and SAG, I think we're ready to talk about it now. So we're bringing Bennett back to also talk about the awards draft and how that's going and how these nominations affected everything.
Yeah, welcome back, Bennett.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about my favorite film of 2020, Music, directed by Sia. I just want to get into that. Let's spend the whole episode on that.
And as Pete Hammond said, it's not even out in the US yet. I think it was released in the UK maybe last week or this week, but it's not out yet here. And the controversy is just so absurd.
It's the only thing I know about it is the controversy.
I saw, as we discussed on our end of 2020 episode, I saw so many movies in 2020, more than I'd ever seen in any previous year, I would guess. And the first time I had heard of Music was that morning when the nominations came out. So if that's any kind of sign as to how these nominations went.
I was about to tweet too that, we have lasted through this like year-long award season, watching movies, waiting for them to come out, and they're going to pick two movies that come out at the very last second.
Yeah.
Besides Judas and the Black Messiah, besides Minari and Nomadland. It's like, oh my God.
Kate Hudson definitely didn't want to be recognized as Zoo, I would guess.
I mean, who knows? No one's seen it, so
exactly.
Maybe she's transcendent and deserving, but I guess we'll get into it.
To be honest, I will never know because I don't plan on watching it. But let's get into some of the winners. So we're going to go through kind of some broader themes that we saw through these nominations. So I would say our first winner of the morning for Golden Globes was Promising Young Woman. Got a surprise nomination for Best Drama and Best Director for Emerald Fennell, and Carey Mulligan got nominated for Best Actress in a Drama, which is huge. How did you guys feel about this?
I think we knew Carey was going to be nominated. At least I was hoping for it. Does this mean she's the front runner now? I'm not sure, because I think she could really win the Golden Globe here. How do you guys feel, Bennett?
Yeah, I think there's been a big swell around her over the past few weeks as the movie came to VOD. I think a lot of people are talking about her, even we've discussed it, but everyone who might have issues with the film or talk about kind of the polarization of the film, that Carey seems to be surviving all of that. That I think it's possible that she'll get a front runner, especially if the film itself has so much push behind it. It still feels like a weird front runner for the category though, but I guess it makes sense based on the nominations.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to, I know last time we talked about the Golden Globes, I kind of said I had this feeling that Carey might win, but I'm having a hard time, I think, describing her or naming her as the front runner just because of the type of film that this is, the other nominations it can possibly garner. And for her, I think, a lot of times contemporary roles don't win. I think the most recent example I can think of is maybe Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Linings Playbook, of that type of young contemporary role. But I don't know. I'm struggling because Viola gives a great performance, and I think Nomadland is actually Frances McDormand's best performance. So I don't know if she can kind of overcome those two, but we'll see. It's looking good for her.
Like I said last time, I think Viola is her main competition. I feel like Frances might be third, but the Globes can be totally different than the Oscars, and she's up for SAG as well. So with SAG, we have 4 out of 5 of the nominees crossing over. And I don't necessarily think the conversation is for the Oscars is going to be Amy Adams versus Andra Day. But there is that 5th slot, which could also allow space for Zendaya, but I don't know what that competition is going to be.
I guess for Zendaya, I love Zendaya, but I really did not like Malcolm and Marie. And I know that it has kind of a divisive response, at least among critics. And given its late rollout, I'm not sure if I can see Academy members voting for her or even finishing the movie, to be honest. So I think they'd be more inclined to go for Amy Adams or even for a Sophia Loren.
I wonder about the Sophia Loren of it. I thought that her best chance in a precursor would be at SAG. Not as, I guess maybe Globes, but I don't know how often Globes nominates non-English language performances, but that she hasn't shown up. And I think that we were kind of looking for if there was any fire for her, I feel like she would have shown up already. That I feel like the Sophia's not going to happen. But with Zendaya, the movie seems to be like dropping with a thud on Netflix. There's both for fans of Zendaya from Euphoria and Disney, Nickelodeon, who are flocking to it because they think it's going to be more Euphoria with Sam Levinson, and they're put off by it. And then the actual industry is watching it, and film goers are watching it and taking it personally. I don't feel like, especially because of how late it is, I don't know if that's going to break through anything. I have not seen it yet, but this is just what I've seen online, I guess.
So we said on our previous episode, like, what will happen with Mank? Do people actually like Mank? And sure enough, they like Mank enough to give it 6 nominations, including Best Picture Drama, Best Director for David Fincher, Best Actor for Gary Oldman, Best Supporting Actress for Amanda Seyfried, Best Screenplay, and Best Score for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. That's quite the haul, especially from the Hollywood Foreign Press.
Do top nominated films not usually surpass 10? Because I feel like 6 isn't that many, even though it's the most this year.
I feel like it's quite a few for the Golden Globes because they don't have the number of tech nominations that we'll see at the Oscars, like costume design, production design, all those things. So I feel like 6 is a pretty good amount. And then at SAG, it still did pretty well, but I think the big story out of SAG was that Amanda didn't get nominated. And I think people thought of her as the front runner for the film, as the shoe-in, and then to not see her there, it's kind of like, ooh, does this maybe not have as much acting support? It also didn't get an ensemble nomination. So it does make you wonder a little bit if it is just in those below the line awards that we'll see it.
I feel like The Mauritanian is a very Globes movie. I don't necessarily think it's going to get any Oscar nominations, but again, here with actor, we have 4 out of the 5 crossing over. And so I don't think the conversation is Tahar Rahim versus Stephen Yeun. The sad part is Delroy Lindo. So are we going to see Delroy and or Stephen get in at the Oscars?
If it's an and, then who gets out? Who's of the 4 that made it, that got nominated for both, who gets cut?
Sophia, you might say Riz.
Not anymore.
No?
Not anymore.
You think he's in for good?
I'm feeling good about him now, especially because he won that, like, is it the Santa Barbara Film Festival? That award that always goes to like the person who wins, I think, like, or who gets most of the nominations. Like Adam Driver got it. People in the past usually get it and then win. So I feel more confident about him now in his place, especially because that movie is so small, and the fact that his performance was good enough to get him a Golden Globe and SAG, I can't see him missing Oscar.
I almost want to say Gary Oldman could be a 5th, 6th spot. And that's probably just because I want Delroy to get in so badly and Stephen Yeun, but Stephen might miss out too, which is sad.
I don't know. I
know that Minari support. I guess we can go on to another winner, which is Minari. Even though it was only nominated in foreign language at the Golden Globes, which we've been there. It did very well with SAG, is up for Outstanding Ensemble. Steven is up. Yoon Jung is up for supporting actress. So it definitely has the support there that I feel like we saw with Parasite last year, that when they obviously took ensemble at SAG.
Mhm.
So part of me wonders if Minari can win ensemble at SAG and then throw a wrench in there with the Oscars. What do you think?
I think the biggest thing that I see is that, okay, yes, you can make the comparison between Minari and Parasite with, being potentially for Minari foreign language film winner at the Golden Globes and then coming into SAG winning ensemble. I think that the big difference I see is that last year at the Golden Globes, Parasite was nominated for screenplay. Bong Joon-ho was nominated for director. Bong Joon-ho is just such a personality and so respected by so many people in the field. And he was great at campaigning, and just like, we loved hearing everything he said the entire time during award season. And I think Minari is a much quieter film than Parasite. And I think people don't know Lee Isaac Chung in the same way that they know Bong Joon-ho. So I don't see it reaching the heights that Parasite did when it comes to the Academy. But I think this is promising for a potential Best Picture nomination. I will say that.
Yeah, I think Steven Yeun might be the kind of torchbearer for Minari in terms of a known quantity, able to kind of just be the face of the film like Bong Joon-ho was for Parasite. But then you don't get, Steven Yeun's not going to get multiple nominations across the directing and writing categories and all that. So his best shot, obviously, an actor. His only shot an actor. That if he can get actor, then maybe that will help carry the film along in kind of visibility and stature. But if Steven misses in actor, then I don't think that the film is going to go as far as it would have otherwise.
And I'm very excited it did so well with SAG. I mean, that was very unexpected to me, especially because it means
ensemble nomination.
Yeah, especially because it means Alan Kim is nominated. So if you're thinking of Minari as Parasite, is Trial of the Chicago 7 maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Or my comparison is Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So that's really unfortunate.
I like the latter a lot better.
Yeah, right? Because that's how it feels, right? So Trial of the Chicago 7, it got lots of Golden Globe nominations. It was the only film that we'll talk about that got Golden Globe drama, director for Aaron Sorkin, screenplay for Aaron Sorkin, and SAG ensemble. So it's the only one that got all of these big precursors. So the reason I'm comparing it to Three Billboards is it feels like this early film that's getting all these nominations and people are just kind of like, really? Like that one? But then when you think of it more, you're like, yeah, it's a crowd pleaser. It kind of, checks that box for what the Hollywood Foreign Press thinks is a movie about the US, and, what it has this big ending and good performances. So I'm inclined to compare it to Three Billboards, which means that it will not win Best Picture at the Oscars potentially, but is going to get a lot of nominations throughout the rest of industry awards. What do you guys think about this?
I know you've said that it could win Best Picture, and I think it still could be likely. Obviously, I don't want it to happen. So if you want it to be the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Three Billboards, either way, neither one. But I think it's definitely going to have a shot at the title. It's going to come down to like a top 2 or 3. And it's going to depend on those races, the marketing campaigns for them, I think.
I immediately latched on to the comparison to Three Billboards because both are I have to look back at the Three Billboards race, but at this point, I think both are my least favorite films in the list of potential Oscar Best Picture nominees. So I like that comparison. But no, I agree. I think they're both from, writer directors with, I guess, maybe Trial of Chicago 7 feels much more like a huge ensemble than like even playing field ensemble than either of those other films feel. But in terms of awards, I think it could follow the Three Billboards trajectory. That makes sense to me.
I think that's also why I'm calling it The Parasite, because they had like a maybe 6 or 7 person cast. Like it wasn't huge like Trial. And I feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood had this huge cast as well, that I feel like while they all did well, I think that is something that could push them to winning. And I think Trial definitely has that. My other point about Trial is that we only saw Sasha being nominated. We didn't see Mark Rylance. We didn't see Frank Langella. We didn't see Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. So is Sasha going to be our only Trial acting nominee at the Oscars?
So I don't think so. I actually think, again, to make the Three Billboards comparison, so we did get 2 supporting actors at SAG for Three Billboards, but we didn't at the Globes. So Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell got in to, I believe, BAFTA also and Oscar. And I think what we could end up seeing is it's either going to be, we'll get to the He Who Must Not Be Named in the supporting actor race in a bit, but I think when we get to the Oscars, what we will see is we're either going to see a second Trial of the Chicago 7 person, or we're going to see like a surprise Paul Raci or something like that. But I think that it's likely, just given the support from actors, and once they, maybe watch the movie, or we maybe get a BAFTA nomination for a second person in Trial of the Chicago 7, we'll end up seeing Mark Rylance or Frank Langella come Oscar nomination morning.
Yeah, I could see. I keep forgetting about Frank Langella because I've burned that memory in my mind, but I can see that. That I think, I don't know when he was last nominated. If maybe it was just for Frost Nixon, but I can definitely see him getting pulled up just as a kind of elderly statesman of the craft who's been nominated before, and we love him, and he has a big, funny, flashy role in the movie that he could get.
Yeah. Bennett, are you prepared for Trial of the Chicago 7 to win Best Editing at the Oscars?
No. No. I'm not prepared for it to win anything, for Sorkin to get anything. Anyway,
all right.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Let alone their stunt ensemble nomination instead of Tenet, which I absolutely cannot believe that they got nominated.
Or Tenet in that situation.
It's a real issue. So I would say our last winner, besides Trial of the Chicago 7, which we'll be talking about, I feel, all award season, is Nomadland, which at the Golden Globes got picture, director, screenplay, and actress for Frances McDormand, which I think is a huge deal for a movie like Nomadland, which I feel like sometimes in previous years could have just been this critics film, and now it's getting support even at the Golden Globes. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it. I'm waiting for when it gets, is it coming to Hulu?
Yeah, it'll be Hulu.
Okay, I was gonna say it's dropping to Hulu or some major streaming service in sometime this month or next month. So that's when I'm excited to see it. But I think, like what you were saying, having what I understand to be a kind of quiet and contemplative film directed by a woman about a woman who is, it's not a period piece, it's not a historical figure, that it's just kind of about this woman's kind of like interior life and living her life, that's not something that you see getting director and screenplay and picture nominations regularly. Usually like maybe we would get a Frances nomination and that would be it for that type of film. So I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. It would be like, I feel like in the past, we get like movies like Elle or Still Alice, where it's just this like best actress, like strong best actress nomination or even winner, but that's it. So that's why in addition to it just being my favorite movie of last year, that's one of the reasons why I'm excited for it. It just such a good step in the right direction, I think, for the industry and for these awards.
It's been a big critics film. Chloe Zhao is a critic's darling. I don't know if it not getting an ensemble nomination is going to hurt it. I think it's definitely a shoe-in for picture and director and a slew of other awards at the Oscars, but I wonder if that hurts its chances at all at winning at the Oscars. Because I don't necessarily see it winning picture at the Globes. I think Chloe Zhao has a good chance, though, winning director.
So here's my like burn it all down thing, which I always just do with the Globes, but I think they're going to give director to Fincher. I think that he's going to win, maybe. And I think that's going to be our first like alarm bells that we're going to get where we're like, is Chloe Zhao not going to win anymore? You know, is it going to just be, we're going to nominate all these women and then David Fincher is going to win for Mank? Like, is that really going to happen? So I can definitely see that happening. As far as the ensemble goes, I wouldn't be too worried about it. It's not really an ensemble film like the other ones are that were nominated, I would say. I think it's worse for something like Promising Young Woman to not get an ensemble nomination because that's a film with a clear ensemble. Whereas Nomadland, Frances is the standout. And then I think David Strathairn we can also maybe talk about as sliding into that fifth spot for supporting actor come Oscar time. I can definitely see them doing that. But as far as ensemble goes, it didn't worry me too much.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't necessarily a surprise that it didn't get an ensemble nomination, but I think maybe, Nick, to your point, that it having an ensemble, a big ensemble with a big cast that can bolster up the chances helps. So like the 5 that did get in, and you know that it is a boost to them that Nomad wasn't able to get. I didn't expect it to get it, but it just didn't happen.
I will say I love the non-actors from Nomadland. I know you don't know their performances yet, Bennett, but I think you'll also like them. I am just looking at the SAG list and that there are only 6 actors under Ma Rainey's for ensemble is a lot shorter than the other films. So maybe that's where I thought maybe Nomadland could have a chance, but obviously those 6, like one name alone is enough to bolster multiple people of, you know, say non-actors. So I get it. We'll
I did want a nomination for Swanky though.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Bennett, I'm so excited for you to see this. She's really great.
I'm excited. Okay, I'll put a pin in Swanky. Apparently. Okay.
Yes.
I'd be interested to see who from the Nomadland cast would have qualified for the ensemble list. The rules around SAG ensemble are so strange of who gets in, right? It's based on who gets a title card, or they can't share it with any other actor, or there's some rule like that you can find some articles online where they go through the nominated casts and pull out the people who did not get listed in the SAG ensemble list because they just didn't get the right crediting. So I wonder with Nomadland if anyone other than Frances and David Strathairn would have even been on the list. There's some fun stuff like that is like kind of nice to look at. So I wonder if the non-actors even would have made it in.
I just wanted Swanky.
Do they have to be guild members too, or to be nominated, or no?
I don't think for SAG. I don't think for SAG. I think that the one that's like the strictest about guilds is the WGA. Like the Writers Guild's crazy.
Regular
with, like, who cannot
disqualification
get nominated.
lists. Yeah. Okay.
Like Mank can't get nominated for WGA.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on to some of the losers of the nominations, which sounds
I'm
so
sorry
terrible.
I titled it that way.
Losers meaning people who
didn't show
not
up.
like losers, but like the people who had a bad day. Right. Yeah.
So I mentioned Delroy Lindo not getting in. That goes along with Da 5 Bloods, who had absolutely 0 Golden Globe nominations, which, being on the other side of it, doesn't surprise me based on, you know, all of their, I would say, racist choices that they made across the board, television as well, which we won't really get into, but no Spike Lee, no nothing for Da 5 Bloods. Very upsetting.
Yeah. Da Five Bloods is interesting because, so one, yes, the Hollywood Foreign Press has a race problem. So we can talk about that now, just that we had so many incredible Black led films this year. Not a single one got into Best Film Drama, including Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, One Night in Miami, Da Five Bloods. It really is Judas and the Black Messiah. It really is just kind of crazy when you think about it. And Spike Lee I felt like he was building momentum off of Critics Awards. And maybe that's just because of the weird timeline we have this year. But to me, it started to feel like, okay, maybe it's not David Fincher coming in to take Chloe Zhao's Best Director. Maybe it's Spike Lee. Maybe this is the time when they're going to crown him and finally give him Best Director. But it seems like that is just not the case. He didn't make the BAFTA long list either. So I think just seeing the lack of Da Five Bloods love here was really discouraging, and I'm not quite sure how they're going to fare at the Oscars.
And then Del Rey missing at SAG as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say the only nomination was for cast, but Chadwick got in for supporting actor at SAG, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And not only Black-led films, but just people in color in general, and talking about the Asian American and Korean cast of Minari that also got in at SAG. It's just like a stark difference between the two Best Picture categories. I mean, if we want to even talk about comedy, we can go there too. The Globes.
The only film with a cast that is made up predominantly of people of color that was nominated was Hamilton, which didn't even come out this year. Really, we don't have to get into that, but
yeah, that's
which
a global
even
anomaly.
David Diggs was shocked by. Those nominations.
Those SAG nominations. Lily, where is Lily?
And David even said, he was like, Hamilton, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Truly.
Oh, yeah.
So we talked about Delroy Lindo a little bit, but do you guys think he could surprise Oscar morning? Or do you think maybe there's a chance at BAFTA even? Or do you think this really is just he's out?
I think there's still so much time between now and the Oscars, right? I haven't compared it to years past, but do we have more of a gap between SAG and Globe nominations and Oscar nominations than usual?
We do. We have a bigger gap. And also what's interesting is that SAG and Golden Globes are, for, I don't know if it's the first time, but in recent memory, they're voting at the same time. So we might actually get different winners. The Golden Globes might have far less influence on who wins these acting races, which I think could play into maybe Oscar nominations where, if people are seeing everything about Delroy Lindo getting snubbed and Da Five Bloods not getting love, and then maybe Academy members decide to reconsider, I can maybe see that happening just because the timeline we do have such a long stretch between nominations. We have to wait another month.
Right.
And then some.
Yeah. And voting hasn't even started. So I think that also these nominations could have a big impact on how people vote. And so tying that back to Delroy Lindo, I think maybe there is how much do you put stock in looking at the nominations that are there and saying this is how people feel and they're a bellwether for what's to come? Or do you look at them as a way for actors in the Academy looking at it as a way to kind of rectify making sure we vote for Delroy now that we have all this time because we want to make sure that he gets in? So I think a snub like that for a big deal like Delroy not getting in could definitely, with that time, come to bear as an actual nomination.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the discrepancy between critics and industry always happens every year, but currently this season, Delroy is third out of actors for wins at different award shows behind Chadwick Boseman and Riz. And he's pretty far above Anthony Hopkins, who has only had 2. Lindo had 8, Boseman has 9, and Ahmed has the most at 12. So I don't think the order is going to be the same. The fact that like Riz Ahmed would be the most likely to get in, but I would just want to see Lindo get in because he was the first best performance of the year.
Yeah.
And he still holds his ground among a lot of the other potential nominees or nominees we saw from the Globes say.
I agree. I mean, I'm on the record as calling his performance Shakespearean. Like I thought it was great. And he was the standout of the film for me. Rewind. I think a lot of people just who are observers like us, so not voting, I think that we are maybe giving more weight to critics' wins this year than ever before because we're just stewing over them. Like we didn't have anything that came in quick succession to it. So we think they're going to have more importance when in reality, you know, for a lot of people, I think best actor, if we're thinking specifically, yes, Chadwick, but I would say the second is probably Anthony Hopkins. I mean, that performance is towering by someone who's been celebrated in the field for decades. So I think that it's easy to jumble everything up and give things more weight this year more than ever before. So speaking of big names in the field who did not have a good morning, Wednesday or Thursday, Ellen Burstyn for Pieces of a Woman. This was shocking to me, really, that she was left out of Golden Globes and SAG. I thought for sure she would at least get into SAG, but we didn't see her either place. What did you guys think of that?
She does have a really good performance. I was still borderline putting her in. I think she is at the bottom of the top 5. I'm kind of wondering the same things. Like, is she out for good? Is this it for her? Are Glenn Close and more so Olivia Colman, are they in for good? I think Olivia to me was kind of further down, one because The Father hasn't been released yet and there hasn't been as much hype about her, at least compared to Anthony Hopkins. But I'm definitely curious about this because Amanda Seyfried is another one who could be in, could be out. It just, there's been mixed nominees for her so far.
Yeah, with Ellen Burstyn, I was going to say that I couldn't remember if she was just getting buzz for the role because she has kind of the one big scene, like 2/3 of the way through, where she gets a monologue, and it was just people who have seen the film who are singing her praises and saying that like she has a sound of saying she should be good. I couldn't remember if she also was actually getting nominated from any of the critics' places. It looks like she's won maybe one regional critic and has some nominations elsewhere, but I don't feel the traction behind her that I do with the others. It feels like her name was put forward early on as being buzzy, and people just kind of left her in thinking that because her name was said early on, then therefore she should carry through. That also could be my own bias. I didn't think she was very good in the film, so I don't think that she should be nominated, but I think that it is surprising. There has been a narrative building around her as if she's nominated, she would be the oldest acting nominee ever. So there's a narrative there that was getting some publicity. But if she didn't get in with SAG, then, well, I guess, but also Amanda Seyfried didn't get in with SAG, so you take those with a grain of salt, I guess. I don't know. I think she could miss.
I think she's out. I really do. I think it's done. I think that if she was going to get in anywhere, I mean, it would have been with SAG. I think that a lot of it was the narrative around her being the oldest nominee, having this great career. As someone who was not a fan of Pieces of a Woman, the movie, but a fan of Kirby's performance, I can totally see how someone in the Academy could watch this movie and tap out after the first 30 minutes and be like, I'm good. I don't need to see what else is coming in this. Kirby is excellent, and maybe not even getting to the Burstyn performance. I think we have to consider that people aren't going to watch everything. It's really unfortunate, but the case for some of these. So I think that for someone like Glenn Close or Olivia Colman, The Father and Hillbilly Elegy are tough films to watch for very different reasons. But both of those films, or both of those actresses, I think are nomination and or awards win magnets, as opposed to Ellen Burstyn, who's had this hiatus coming back. So I think that Olivia and Glenn are just easy check the box votes here. And I think both do have good performances in their films. You guys know I will defend Glenn for anything basically, so it's probably not the best thing, but you know, I think they're both in for the long haul.
It does make me sad to say that I would be more content performance-wise with a Glenn nomination for Hillbilly Elegy than I would for Ellen Burstyn nomination for Pieces of a Woman. And I don't like saying that because Hillbilly Elegy should. Why are we saying those words?
Yes,
like, we should not have reached this point, but that is how I feel. Yeah.
Did you see that there was like some news outlet, I can't remember, they called it Hillbilly Eulogy in their awards list?
Oh.
I was like, well,
Oops.
There we go. There it is. Yeah. Nick, I know that you've doubted Glenn and Hillbilly Elegy, but I'm going to call her the front runner again here.
Wow.
How do you feel about that?
I think Glenn being in is fine. And we talked about Glenn and Amy before being separate from the awful film that it is. And I think Amy getting in is a little more surprising to me, especially at SAG. But I think Glenn being in there is fine. I wonder what her campaign is going to be and if she has a good shot at winning. I don't think with Bakalova in there for the Oscars, it's going to be likely, but it could still be another campaign, which could even be more disappointing if she were to lose after trying so hard again after The Wife.
You think that if Maria Bakalova is in, she's beating Glenn at the Oscars? I mean, maybe she's more like a Melissa McCarthy type of nominee for Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I am not to the point where I can buy her coming in to win the Oscar. I mean, that's just to me like wild. It's like Marissa Tomei or someone like that, but that's even more likely or understandable.
Well, right. So supporting right now is Maria Bakalova, Glenn Close, Olivia Colman. We think those three are pretty locked. We haven't talked about Helena Zengel, who
I've avoided mentioning her name. Yeah,
I still haven't seen, but I know that this podcast does not want her to get nominated.
No, I actually really like her. I liked the movie more than Nick did. Like I said last time, child actors, SAG is the place for them. They nominated Jacob Tremblay for Room. Like, it should have been, I think, more on our radar, but getting both is pretty nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So again, mentioning supporting actress, we just don't have space for Helena Zengel in there because we have Yoon Jung and Amanda Seyfried.
Okay.
Like Bennett, you mentioned three being locks, and I don't necessarily feel Olivia Colman's a lock. But if that's the three, we only have two spots. And if Zengel's one of them, the other seat, which maybe you're hoping a win for Seyfried, Sophia, at the Oscars, maybe instead of Bakalova. Is that why?
Yes.
Or Glenn?
Yeah. I love Amanda's performance. I thought it's like the best thing of the movie. But I think our two locks are Olivia and Glenn. I think they're both getting in. I think that they have the support, they have strong performances. The narrative around them being in is a good one. Those are the only two I would consider locks. I don't think Maria Bakalova is necessarily a lock. I think that she and Helena Zengel both have Golden Globe and SAG. Like, what makes Maria more of a lock than Helena Zengel? Really? I mean, if older people are voting, we have to think about that too. This over 60 crowd that makes up a good portion of the Academy, they're going to like News of the World more than Borat, I would guess. So for me, like, yes, Maria Bakalova has a strong campaign, but I can't call her a lock for that type of movie. That seems too far for me. but I can see her getting in. But yeah, I'm at
thinking
this
of
point
it,
only calling the two of them locks.
I'm thinking of it in a separated from the movie in the way that voting members might separate Kirby from Pieces of a Woman. I'm thinking, okay, they're going to think of Bakalova outside of the comedy of Borat. But on the other hand, they might love Mank and really want to support Seyfried. I don't know. It's just, there are too many questions about who's in, who's on the line. And there's so many on the line, it could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say for supporting, I don't know if this narrative has been discussed on this podcast, but the thought that you're saying that Glenn and Olivia are the locks, I think I agree. Do we see this as another situation where Olivia turns in a very like strong, critically praised role in a British film, that Olivia turns in this role that the critics really like and everyone thinks that she's great. Glenn turns in this big showy role in a not good movie, and the narrative is around Glenn getting her win. There's not a clear front runner in the category. Like, I'm waiting for it to click in that it happens where Olivia swoops in and wins once again over Glenn, and if the narrative swells around that, I can just see that happening potentially. But then you have there's other spoilers coming around, but
I mean, I think so, because one, Glenn is campaigning harder for Hillbilly Elegy than she did for The Wife. Like she's really making it stick that she likes this movie, or she's proud of the work, at least, that she did in the movie, which is admirable. I think she actually does really good work in the movie. And again, it's not best supporting actress in best movie, it's best supporting actress. So she could win. I think with Olivia, what's interesting is that, so let's say if Chadwick is the clear front runner for best actor, and people are like, well, I love The Father, but Anthony Hopkins isn't going to win. Olivia Colman might win. So I'm going to vote for Olivia Colman as my vote for The Father. And then that's another place where she can get votes. I can see it.
I was just thinking of Hunter Harris saying that Glenn Close is legally not allowed to win for Hillbilly Elegy.
Right. Yeah, I got that Substack email.
I'm rooting for her. I'm going to come out and say it. I am rooting for Glenn.
I'm not against Glenn here.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I would be happy if she finally wins, but like,
not
for this is a little upsetting.
Yeah, but
like you said, she has a good role. I know.
It happens all the time in history. Like, people win for bad movies all the time.
Would I want her to win for Hillbilly Elegy over The Wife? Maybe.
I was going to say win for Hillbilly Elegy over Zoom. That's sad.
Like,
poor Glenn.
Yeah.
Hey, she'll get her Oscar.
Even
if it's honorary, she will get it.
She will. Go ahead.
Let's move on to some wild things that happened. I think the number one thing that happened shocked us all. We did not want to hear it even more than Helena Zengel, was Jared Leto being nominated at both the Globes and SAG. Just unheard of.
I have not watched The Little Things yet. Have either of you?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, both have. Okay.
Yeah.
I keep seeing that it's like he's giving like a bad TV procedural performance.
So, I think the listeners by now know how I feel about Jared Leto, and it's not positively. So I think here, though, in this movie, when I did watch it, I was so bored for so much of it, which is like, I like really slow movies, but this was just so bad. And when Jared Leto appeared, that is actually when I got interested, or at least more interested in the movie, because he's just giving you high camp. Like, it's almost like one of those times when Rob Pattinson is just like in a different movie altogether. And you're like, what's going on here? I don't know. Yeah. So I think that's what happened there, is that like, it is such a showy, over the top, ridiculous performance that people confused it for a good one.
I mean, if he's gonna win for putting some brown contacts in, I can't. The performance is pretty short too.
Yeah.
It's
And
just not enough.
he
It's
has like a
like a
pot
poor
belly. It's
man's
so weird.
Fincher.
Ugh,
Yeah.
It's
oh
That
no.
yeah. It's a direct copy off of like 3 movies, Seven, Zodiac, and Silence of the Lambs, with like a little Criminal Minds CSI thrown in there. It's
Mm.
kind of nightmarish. But
it's seven to a T, and it's like there are intense moments that are enjoyable in a thrilling way, but it just doesn't come together.
mm-mm.
It's trying too hard. So this is one of those like last minute movies that came out that was so disappointing.
Yeah,
Do you guys go
it's
ahead.
interesting that I think many of the surprises that happened this week were from late release, like January, February releases that had been written off as just normal dumping ground times, in a typical calendar year, season year, something coming out in January and February as the world premiere then is just the graveyard of a bad film.
I mean, we
we
still
were
haven't
thinking about
gotten
Judas and the Black Messiah, and that's one that was like, okay, this one is going to be part of the eligibility window, but it's going to be good. It's going to be in the conversation, and that's what all of the attention went into, that and United States versus Billie Holiday as the potentials, and nothing else was considered. And then Globes and SAG swoop in with these couple late-breaking ones.
Yeah. I will say Judas and the Black Messiah is very good. I really did like that. So all of my energy and attention was to that, where I was like, I hope that this gets a couple of nominations here and there, at least for Daniel Kaluuya, maybe Dominique Fishback somewhere. But then Jared Leto comes in and you just think, oh, of course, like this guy already has an Oscar for another ridiculous performance, in my opinion. And like, is he someone we need to worry about?
I think he could. Now I think he could. I think the 5th slot's pretty shaky right now.
The only lock I have in the category right now is Sacha Baron Cohen. Everyone
You don't
else
think
I can.
Leslie Odom Jr.? I'd put him as a lock.
He's very close to one. He'd be my second pick. I really liked One Night in Miami, and I feel like the industry also will like it in that performance. So I'm hopeful. I just am like, the only person I can solidify right now is Sasha.
Sure.
I think Daniel Kaluuya is pretty close as well. Another one I was going to mention quick, that one we haven't even seen yet, is I Care a Lot, which Rosamund Pike got a nomination for, which comes out on Netflix this week. Yeah.
I'm really excited to see it.
Me
It sounds
too.
like it's a great role for her finally, and that she has a lot of fun with it.
Good. Yeah. I'm very excited. I love her. So I hope that it's a good role for her, because like we haven't seen the career, at least the career that I wanted for her post Gone Girl has not come to fruition. So it seems like mismanagement, but I'm very excited for this one and glad she got in, because that category was just crazy to begin with. So I'm glad that we're seeing her there, even though I haven't seen the performance. Speaking of that category, is it time to talk about Kate Hudson as Zoo in music?
Is there anything to talk about other than what we know, which is just the controversy with autism advocacy groups? Yikes.
Yikes is right.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like, I was listening to Titanium earlier today, and I was like, do we have to like cancel Sia now? Like,
well, Sia deactivated her Twitter after the Golden Globe nominations came out. She posted a couple tweets kind of apologizing for the situation, then deactivated it. And yeah, Maddie Ziegler plays her character's name is Music, the titular Music. And my understanding is that she's playing a like neuroatypical girl who sort of escapes into a like in her mind kind of escapes into a world where she is a world-class dancer, and that's where Sia's direction comes in, that it sounds like it's like a 2-hour music video is kind of what the movie sounds like. And Maddie Ziegler's dancing through most of it, presumably to Sia songs. And that in the casting of it, that you mentioned Sia tried to cast or was looking for neuroatypical actresses who, but she says that she couldn't find someone who was able to kind of keep up with the demands of the dancing and of the just the situation. So then moved and cast her frequent collaborator, Maddie Ziegler. But then the controversy after that was that there were autism advocacy groups who signed petitions to cancel the film, and had a lot of, there was public kind of debate between Sia and these groups, where Sia was doubling down on a lot of things, and it just wasn't, she was trying to defend herself, but it just wasn't going very well. And that was all that I knew about this movie before I got to Golden Globe nominations.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, should not have been nominated. This film probably should never have seen the light of day or happened. So the fact that it just is coming up again here is just such a typical Hollywood Foreign Press being out of touch with what should be celebrated, to me at least, I think. Ugh. I will not be watching the film. I will say that.
So something else I noticed between the two sets of nominees was that for picture, so ensemble, and then really just for drama, motion picture, none of the 5 comedies are going to get in for picture at the Oscars.
No.
I don't think that's a surprise, but it's interesting because only Trial overlaps between the two. And then the other 8 nominees, I think, could make up our, including Trial, 9 Best Picture nominees, plus potentially another one added in. So those 9 would be Da 5 Bloods, The Father, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, Promising Young Woman, and Trial of the Chicago 7. I think that's a strong 9. I think a lot of people have predicted those for the whole year. I guess first off, do we think those 9 are in for good?
I think those 9 are the leading 9 right now. I don't want to say for good with the sliding scale of nominees. But I would say if you're making a top 9, that those would be the picks. Yeah. I
agree. Right now for me though, I can see a world where only 7 of them get Best Picture nominations. Specifically, so it's very likely that one of the SAG ensemble nominees will not get a Best Picture nom. That happens most of the time where they don't match up 5 for 5. And with the way that Netflix has been doing their awards campaigns and the way that Da 5 Bloods has been performing so far with the industry and what came out with the BAFTA long list, I am worried that Da 5 Bloods will be out of the Best Picture lineup. I think that will kind of be that bubble slot, because I think the thing that we have to remember for Oscars with the sliding scale is with the preferential ballot, to get a Best Picture nomination, a lot of people have to list the movie as their number 1 movie of the year. And for some of these, I'm not sure I can see that happening. So these 9, I don't think we're going to see all 9 of them.
The one I'm iffy about is Promising Young Woman, which I think could be too optimistic to see it, but that doesn't mean we won't see it. I'm not sure.
For me, I'm not as confident about it, only because, like I said earlier, the SAG ensemble miss. I think that Carey is really strong, and it had a good morning at the Golden Globes. I think we'll have to wait and see who wins at the Golden Globes. I think then maybe I'll be able to be more confident in predicting it or not for getting in. But right now it is a bubble one for me. And same with The Father. I'll say it again. I don't know how many people will rank that as number 1. I don't know why it's in my head that way, but
Or just having the 3 play adaptations,
the
right?
3
Is
play
that-
adaptations. Yeah, I still feel that way. I don't think we're going to see all 3 of them. If we do, sure. But I don't see a lot of like passion behind them. The strongest one to me is One Night in Miami of the plays.
I think they could wait until after the Golden Globes wins, because so the Globes are happening at the end of February, and then Oscar voting for nomination starts the 5th of March. So there is a little time in there where they're going to have time to talk and kind of mull things over. So another wrench that could be thrown in there.
Oh my God.
The other thing I wanted to ask about is if we do get the 10, I know there's a sliding scale, but if we get 10, would we see Judas and the Black Messiah or maybe even Soul hop in there?
As far as Judas and the Black Messiah goes, I can see it. I think that we, if we look back at award shows past, late breakers sometimes do really well. 1917, Phantom Thread, where all of a sudden, now those were PTA and Sam Mendes, which is different than Shaka King, but still, there is sometimes that swell of late breaking support that comes. So I could see it happening. As far as Soul goes, this one, so there's never been an animated film nominated for Best Picture in the preferential ballot era. We haven't seen it yet. So that leads me to believe it's not likely. But I could see it happening just because of the technical support, especially for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and potentially getting into screenplay. I don't know. I could see it, but again, I feel less confident just given what we know about the preferential ballot in animated films.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty low on Soul's chances of getting in. But then I guess would Judas be number 10? I don't think there's going to be 10 nominees, but just thinking of what else would get number ones, that if we have a month until voting, that late breaking ones, if there's a lot of excitement behind them, they could surge up to someone's number 1 just when it's right at the right time to vote. And I think that could be also why Promising Young Woman seems to be such a big thing right now, that it was seen a year ago at last year's Sundance with The Father. I think coming out of that, The Father had more Oscar buzz for sure than Promising Young Woman. And then but Promising Young Woman was, the narrative was kind of like, oh, okay, like this one's pretty wild, we won't talk about it, wait till you see it. And then it's hitting at the right time that it also could be, if there's enough people who love it, it could get number 1. I think it's either number 1 or not on someone's list.
Yeah, it's either a benefit that it's polarizing or it's completely detrimental to its chances. But it's also probably like the cool thing to vote for. So
right,
maybe. I think it's the one film that has benefited from the pandemic, because it was supposed to come out in the spring. If it came out in the spring, I don't think we'd be hearing about it at all. I really don't.
Oh, right. The delay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it would be just out completely.
Okay. Is that it for now?
Right. I think so. Do we want to just do a quick like draft update? Nick, you're still just out front with all of your great picks and no delays.
I had a few that got chopped off.
You had an actress and a creative, not films. Unfortunately, The Trial of the Chicago 7 is my little engine that could.
And like you said, you're rooting for it, like with your hand over your eyes.
I'm like, don't tell anyone, please. Like, shh.
Right. Signing your name with anonymous on any encouragement for it. Yeah.
I mean, that's also me with Hillbilly Elegy, so I think in a much worse way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's really...
it is what it is.
So now a score update. So Nick has 73, Bennett has 33, I have 26. I will say the last time we talked, I had 0 points. So I'm very happy with how well I've been doing with the industry.
Like we
And
predicted, you're coming on strong with industry awards,
is that a
and
good
I'm
thing?
starting to peter out. Yeah, I guess I'm more proud to have chosen things that are the critics the critics prefer as opposed to the industry.
One thing to think about is I think with the nominations coming, a big place maybe to gain points is nominations versus wins. I think because, we can get a lot of points with these nominations. Like I can gather, so like for example, for the Golden Globes, I got 7 points just for my movie alone, for one movie, for Trial of the Chicago 7. But like, what if it doesn't win anything? Like it can just be a big nominations push. Or is this a place where it could win a bunch of stuff and I could make up some of the difference? I'm very happy with my Netflix pick, just as far as that goes, with just having so many contenders.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can gloat about, the literal only thing about my picks, is that 3 of my 4 actors were nominated at SAG.
Just last time I was on this podcast, we talked. I said that we all whiffed an actress because we were so sure that Hillbilly Elegy was dead in the water.
Yep.
And you both chose Glenn and Amy, so both doing better.
There they are.
My prediction for Elizabeth Moss to get both Globe and SAG nominations for The Invisible Man did not pan out, but I'm glad I made them anyway.
It's a good performance.
Yeah. She should have got in for Globe, but
I agree.
It wasn't going to pan out with drama. Yeah.
Right.
So Nick, your 3 movies are still going strong. My 1 movie is very strong.
And yeah, and maybe just to list those real quick, I think for the films that we have left, we chose pretty well. Surprisingly, I think we didn't think we did maybe a few months ago, but so Sophia, you have Trial of Chicago 7, like you said. Nick has Mank, Minari, and Hillbilly Elegy. I guess with Hillbilly Elegy, you're really going on actors only, but
it's 2. Yeah, it's not like a full.
But what if it is more?
It's still in the conversation. Yeah. Gabriel Basso surging at the end.
Oh my God.
And then my 2 films are Da 5 Bloods and Tenet. I think we're talking about how Da 5 Bloods is it just falling off too late? Hopefully not. It's definitely stayed in the conversation. But then Tenet missed the stunt ensemble, and that's just a blow because there's just no support for anything. It did get the score nomination though, right?
It did.
Globe score nomination, so that's something.
It did.
But otherwise, that's not.
I think we'll still see Tenet in technical, special effects, all of those categories. So I don't think that's totally gone, and I would really hope for a potential Oscar score nomination. I think that would be really exciting.
I think so too.
That would be great.
I was going to say also, Bennett, so you and I have Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. Common wisdom says they're not going anywhere, but we have BAFTAs, and I think maybe they could get nominated for BAFTAs.
That's true. Yeah, if they have like some hometown support.
And BAFTAs nominate 6, so there's an extra spot.
Nice.
That they could maybe benefit from. We'll see.
It's the only time that we'll get it.
That's it. All right. So that is our last, I would say, awards nomination update that we'll have for a little while. We'll check back in, I think, right before the Oscars. So we'll have a series coming out about updates around the shortlist and different categories, but we won't be back doing one of these until we know a lot more, which is pretty exciting.
And who knows, maybe some things we said today will be totally different than, maybe like Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan will be the locks to win. Who's to say?
God.
Wishful
Who
thinking.
knows? Yeah.
Thank you, Bennett, for coming on again and updating us and talking about the nominations. We'll definitely have you back in March when we get Oscar nominations.
I'll be around, but always happy to dig into things with you guys and commiserate.
Truly. That's what we will be doing, I think, for the rest of award season, now that the critics' time is pretty much passed. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next time. Stay safe and wear your masks.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening and watching.